Ladies and gentlemen, huge news in the Durham probe today. John Durham is utilizing text messages and has released text messages from Michael Sussman to James Baker at the Bureau from the Clinton, from the attorney that Madam Secretary hired that's indicted for lying to James Baker. The text messages show that he told James Baker of the Bureau, Comey's top legal counsel, that he had information that needed to be, that they needed to meet and talk about, and he was not representing anyone. He was not going on behalf of anybody else, and he was just something he wanted to do on his own. This is huge. This is further proof. Well, it's further proof that he lied to the United States government or people at the Bureau. But it also shows that he's going to have to mount a defense stating, hey, everyone I spoke to, whether they worked for James Comey or any other agency, knew exactly what I was doing, and they also knew that I was representing the Clinton campaign. Also, in addition to that, by the way, I don't have Twitter, I don't have Facebook, but Elon Musk just became a director, and he's very likely going to purchase far more than just 9% of Twitter. There's every once in a while you find great profiles on Twitter. Technofog is one of them. So he's an attorney or lawyer. He's on Substack. The Washington Post calls him the mysterious Technofog. He's fantastic. And he's reporting on this, and I'll read you part of the Substack as well. But Technofog is awesome. So you could just... Again, I don't like Twitter, and you don't have to actually be on Twitter. You don't have to have an account to see what he's doing. It's hashtag techno_fog. And he does fantastic research. I mean, really wonderful research on the Durham Probe Special Counsel. So he's awesome. But anyway, I will read you a little bit of the text. Actually, I'll read you the entire text message. Jim, it's Michael Sussman. I have something time-sensitive and sensitive I need to discuss. Do you have availability for a short meeting tomorrow? I'm coming on my own, not on behalf of a client or company. Want to help the Bureau. Thanks. I'm coming not on behalf of a client or company. Okay? All right? Why is that amusing? Because this whole thing is a farce and a charade. Okay? Of course James Baker knew why he was meeting. Sussman's defense team, if they're smart, will simply say, yeah, our client said that he was coming on his own, not on behalf of a client or company. Of course, he lied about that. He lied under oath about that. He was being paid by Clinton to filter or disseminate information, promulgate information, spread information to the Bureau and other agencies, the Central Intelligence Agency included. Okay, he was being paid to do that. What Clinton and the Democratic Party did, and by the way, I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024 rematch. I'll vote for Trump 1,000,000 times over. But we need that. This country needs that. And you might think I'm absolutely nuts. I'm not being, I'm not being facetious or sarcastic. Sometimes I'll do a segment saying Trump's going to get indicted for this or that. That's pure satire. But we're still living 2016. The Durham Probe Special Counsel is proof of that. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Share this segment everywhere. It's very important. You can read also Technofog Substack, and you can see the actual text message. I'll just read it again, then I'll get into my thoughts on this, because of course the Bureau knew. Everyone knew almost certainly that Michael Sussman was being paid by Clinton. Everyone knew this. Everyone involved, from James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, there are other FBI officials, they all knew. Clapper, Brennan, all of them understood that a Steele dossier, and I'll get to another segment in a couple of hours, CNN Special Counsel Durham wants to bring up Trump-Russia dossier trial against Clinton campaign lawyer. This is today. Well, of course, that's the whole, every indictment is going to be linked to the Steele dossier, especially Igor Danchenko, the second indictment, the Steele subsource. The thing was purchased. We couldn't even talk about Hunter's emails, which was a legitimate, true, real story. You remember, the Washington Post says, democracy perishes in darkness. Well, those deceitful lies, that shadow of deceit, that's from American media. Media lies by omission. They will tell you some truthful information and keep truthful information from you. They will tell you only what they want you to hear, and they will then not give you the full picture. So initially when you heard about the Steele dossier and when BuzzFeed published it, you didn't know initially that it was purchased by Clinton. You didn't know initially that it was purchased by the Democratic National Committee. You then found out the Washington Post and others sheepishly said, oh yeah, it was actually purchased by Clinton and the Democratic Party, but you know what? It's still very important. It's still, some of it has been corroborated. Nothing was corroborated. And then they say when they can't find anything within the Steele dossier, when they can't find not even a kernel of truth, they say, well, the main theme has been backed up and supported. Because, Russia wanted Trump. There's no evidence of that. Well, there were Facebook ads. Well, so what? There were Facebook ads against Trump, too. The vice president of Facebook said most of the ads were seen after November of 2016. So it's like you can look and you can play that stupid game with any political party. You could say, well, why don't we talk about the origins of you-know-what? Oh, that's because another country doesn't want us to know. Gee, what political party in this country doesn't want us to talk about the origins of you-know-what? Oh, therefore that political party is being controlled by the other country. That political party is helping another country with their foreign policy or national security objectives. You could do that all the time with Democrats on a number of issues. But apparently, if Trump has anything that correlates with a specific country in terms of foreign policy, he's doing it on behalf of that country. So this is the warped, twisted propaganda spin. It's so easily deciphered. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so I want to read this to you again. Special Counsel John Durham has just provided evidence that the night before, on September 18, 2016, Sussman sent Baker this text. Jim, it's Michael Sussman. I have something time-sensitive and sensitive I need to discuss. Do you have availability for a short meeting tomorrow? I'm coming on my own, not on behalf of a client or company. Want to help the Bureau. Thanks. Apparently, then you have the Priestap notes. Mr. Priestap notes provide, so there's Bill Priestap. He's the assistant FBI director and former FBI deputy general. Assistant FBI director and then former FBI deputy general Tricia Anderson. Their notes say the same thing. Mr. Priestap notes provide, in part, Michael Sussman, attorney, said not doing this for any client, represents DNC Clinton Foundation, been approached by prominent cyber people, but said not doing this for any client, but they knew, represents DNC and the foundation. The Anderson notes, Miss Anderson notes include on top, and then after a redaction, go on to state, Sussman meeting with Baker, no specific client, but group of cyber academics talked with him about research. So, okay, again, all of these other individuals knew. They all knew, okay? But this is bureaucracy. John Durham, when he sent a top official of the Bureau in Boston years back to prison, that individual had informants in Boston, and that was a famous case. Well, the bureau official in Boston at that time actually became part of the criminal organization he was using initially as informants. Okay? And he was able to get away with that for a long time because he was able to say, well, look, you know what? We're not gonna pick, the most innocent people to inform us of the activity of other criminal organizations. So obviously, I have to be very close to this group of this criminal, bunch of people. So eventually, John Durham at that time, federal prosecutor, eventually he had to. It was very easy for him to say, okay, this government official is using his bureaucratic post for personal or other reasons. And he actually engaged in the same criminal activity or similar criminal activity, tipping off, giving information to informants to help them commit crimes and to help them cover up all the activity and really terrible things, ending people's lives, that type of thing that they did. And so if you have a bureaucratic post, if you're a government official, and all you need to do is write down on these notes, like I believe, who was it? One of President Obama's officials said, well, President Obama said that everything needs to be done by the rule of law, okay? Just because you wrote that doesn't mean that's taking place. Just because you write, oh, we are not influencing James Clapper or Brennan or Comey or Strzok or McCabe. We are not utilizing President Obama's intelligence services against Trump, thus undermining and harming a peaceful transition of power. Signed, all the top officials in President Obama's administration. Well, that doesn't mean it's not happening. But from a government or bureaucratic sense, they just write these notes to kind of cover their rear ends. And so you do have people saying, gosh, we didn't know that SUSSMAN was working on behalf of Clinton. But at that point, by September, there had already been a Steele dossier filtered through the government. So they all knew. And SUSSMAN was part of the same law firm that helped purchase the Steele dossier. So they all knew. It's not like they didn't know, okay? If you work in a corporation, and then somebody comes and becomes a manager, and they come from a rival corporation, you will know exactly, why they left, what happened. You will know all these things, or you'll hear all of these things. If there was even a hint of impropriety, Baker should never have met with SUSSMAN, which is why I keep saying SUSSMAN's defense team will eventually be forced to say, hey, the Bureau knew, the government knew. In fact, they were very happy to take the information. And they wouldn't have cared if we were paid by Clinton. Furthermore, the Steele dossier, you have this, like, the media and SUSSMAN's defense keep saying, well, Durham probe special counsel is just, lighting a flame under this conservative media. That's all you did for 5 years. All mainstream or liberal media, which is mainstream, every single day was energized with nonsense that Trump could have worked with the Kremlin. He was installed. The Steele dossier says it's an Alpha Bank story. Jake Sullivan tweeted it out. I mean, that's all they did for 5 years. The Democratic Party didn't stand for anything else, even though they demand allegiance and obedience from voters. They didn't stand for anything else but taking down Trump, and they still don't stand for anything else. Notice how quick they just jettisoned combating climate change. Oops, strategic oil reserves. Yeah, that's what we always meant. And so they only cared about taking down Trump. That's the only thing they cared about. And you have them working for a long time on this singular objective, okay? That they filtered all of this nonsense through media. You had media being given information, people at Mother Jones, BuzzFeed, by FBI officials and others, Then they publish the nonsense or the disinformation that could be riddled with national security objectives of other countries. And then the government says, hey, there's a published report. Let's use that. And then judges say, well, it was all in the media. Yeah, it was fed to the media by political operatives in government who didn't like Trump. And then you had willing participants in journalists, lifelong liberal Democrats. And I used to be a liberal Democrat my whole life up until recently. Then they're publishing information, and it's this circle of deceit. Web of lies. You have operatives in government serving as quote-unquote sources to journalists publishing nonsense about Trump and the Kremlin, and then judges and government then utilizing published material to say, hey, you know what? These are reports. Let's go ahead. And the Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, stated the exact same thing. He stated that was taking place. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Huge, huge news. Because this proves without a shadow of a doubt that A, he's going to have to, he'll get convicted, but he's going to have to either, find some kind of plea deal, or if it's a plea deal, or if it goes to trial and there's this huge, defense being mounted, at the end of the day, people who worked for James Comey, the reality and the truth that the reality that they knew that SUSSMAN was working with Clinton, for Clinton, and they didn't care because they wanted to set up and frame Trump, that reality will eventually be out in the open, one way or another. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll be back in about an hour. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. To my viewers, to my new Patreons, thank you so very, very much. Hit subscribe.